It's my honor to present you the Honorable Mayor of Boise, Dave Beater.
Well, this is our 150th anniversary in the city of Boise, our sesquicentennial, or to make it a little easier, the Boise 150. And already we've had a Boise 150 symphony. We have a Boise 150 poet. We have had history presentations and art. We've even had a Boise 150 debate. But what we haven't had yet is the Boise 150 joke. So this morning, I am here to formally announce and tell the official Boise 150 joke. So bear with me. Butch Otter, Raoul Labrador, and a French trapper. I just love the way it starts. Butch Otter, Raoul Labrador, and a French trapper are flying over the city of Boise. When the pilot comes back and he says, both engines have caught on fire. We're losing altitude and we only have 2 parachutes. Well, Butch Otter jumps up and says, I am the governor of Idaho. I have to survive to protect our state and our people. Plus, I have a rodeo to go to tomorrow. He grabs a parachute and jumps out of the plane. Well, Raoul Labrador sees this and he jumps up. He says, I'm a member of the U.S. Congress. I have to keep us from wasting money. I have to work on immigration reform. Plus, I have to be on Face the Nation tomorrow. And he grabs another parachute and jumps out of the plane. Well, suddenly the French trapper leans out the window and yells, "Le bois! Le bois!" And just then, the trees along the river all bend down into the river and splash water up to the plane. It puts out both fires on the plane. The plane steadies. And the pilot looks at the trapper and says, how did you do that? The trapper says, sir, we are the city of trees. We can do anything. And besides, those were Boise 150 tote bags, not parachutes. Bless you for laughing, folks. Good to get that official joke going. You know, 150 years ago, some local pioneers, they cast a little seed. And in a very real sense, from that seed, everything, every child born, every business started, every road paved dates back to that day in Tom Davis and William Ritchie's cabin, where a simple 20-lot plat was drawn up by Henry Riggs on July 7th, 1863. You know, we celebrate our history this year, but we also made history. First, last December, this city council voted unanimously to prohibit discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. For yourselves, this chamber stood with us for a number of reasons, and one of them a very pragmatic one. If we're going to attract the best ideas, the best companies, and the best people, we simply cannot exclude a whole segment of our community on the basis of prejudice. But we also took this step for a very simple reason. It's who we are. Boiseans recognize good ideas no matter where they come from. We celebrate hard work no matter who does it. and we judge people based on their positive contributions to the community, not based on somebody else's prejudices. You know, two people deserve special credit in this effort, Council members Mary Ann Jordan and Lauren McLean. Please give it up for them. Second thing, the hole in the ground is no longer. You know, for 82 years, the Eastman Building was on that site, but it's been 26 years since it burned down. Ronald Reagan was president. The Dow just reached 2,000, and some of you hadn't even been born yet. Not you, Dave Terrell. We know better than that. And you know, in a few months, we're going to celebrate the opening of the 8th and Main building. And I'll never again have to answer the question, Mayor, what are you going to do about the hole in the ground? God bless you, Tommy Alquist, wherever you are. Third, we have worked tirelessly to make sure that the permitting of the location of businesses and the expansion of businesses in the city of Boise goes on with a minimum of hassles. You know, but this example illustrates the level of our success. Micron's new Fab 50 is a 3-story, 111,000 square foot industrial building. It took 4 separate permits to approve it, 20 different fire sprinklers and alarm permits, and nearly daily inspections. Our team at the city of Boise consolidated both the design and building permits and the inspections, and here's what Micron had to say. Micron's new Fab 50 was completed faster than any Micron facility in the world, thanks to the hard work of and collaboration of our team of design and engineers and Boise City's Planning and Development Services team, and it has proven to be the most cost-effective fab as well. Music to a mayor's ears. Finally, in April, we became the smallest city in the lowest 48 ever to host a quarterfinals of Davis Cup. You bet. Now everybody knows that Boiseans celebrate athletic excellence of all kinds. A lot of people deserve credit for bringing Davis Cup, but one person deserves most of the credit. USA Today called him a cross between an evangelist and a Pied Piper. In his own interview with Sports Illustrated, he said bringing Davis Cup to Boise was like having Jesus Christ and the Virgin Mary come here for a concert, and they brought the Beatles with them. Greg Patton is a force of nature. He is our goodwill ambassador. Only 8 times in almost 10 years have I given the highest honor that Boise can give, the key to the city. Greg, I'd like you to join me up here on stage this morning. I got to read this. The key to the city, presented to Greg Patton. His vision and boundless enthusiasm brought the 2013 Davis Cup quarterfinals to Boise and have inspired young people to strive for excellence in tennis and in life. Congratulations, Greg. Greg, I cannot allow him to say a few words because he cannot say just a few words. And what's more, he'd upstage me. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Greg Patton. You know, we do have steps, Greg, but that was a nice job. You know, Coach Patton had the courage to dream big dreams. Well, Boise was built on big dreams. In my first State of the City address, I quoted the great attorney Clarence Darrow, who came to Boise in 1906. He wrote of coming through hundreds of miles of dusty, dreary desert, where the only things living seemed to be sagebrush and gophers. But then he came upon the city, resplendent in flowers and lawns and shrubs and trees, a bright green gem in a setting of blue. Boise has a pride in its town and its people and culture, and could rightly be called the Athens of the sagebrush. And that's a quote from Clarence. We are still a bright green gem in a setting of blue. We are like Athens. And the comparison holds in another way. Ancient Athens was a city-state, the center of commerce and education and the arts, and ruled largely by its citizens. Athenians knew if they were going to build anything, if they were going to accomplish anything, they had to build it one Parthenon brick at a time. And so it is with the city of Boise. We have learned that in order to push our priorities, we have to do so ourselves. But most of all, we have to invest in ourselves, invest in our businesses, in our children, invest in Boise State University so that we can have high-skilled, high-paying jobs for the future. Unfortunately, it seems our state is pursuing the opposite route. Idaho leads the country in the percentage of minimum wage jobs, and we're near the bottom in wages. At the same time, the state's commitment to Boise State has diminished from 33% of Boise State's budget just 10 years ago down to only 18% today. Rather than the high road of high skills and high paying jobs, we seem to want to pursue the low road that we are the cheapest. Indeed, a high-ranking state official told a friend of mine recently that from other parts of the state, businesses are constantly asking him, do not raise expectations or we'll have to raise wages. It appears the state is taking that bad advice. What kind of an economic development strategy is that? We need to invest in the future and build the Boise of the future. And you know, you'd think we pay such a high level of the state's overhead in Boise and in our valley that the state would want to know how they could help. Well, you would be wrong. This last session, the legislature passed a bill that made it more difficult to put an initiative on the ballot in Idaho. At the signing of that bill, Governor Otter said, we cannot let these initiatives be pushed by the great state of Ada. Now, your signature counts for less than the signature of those from other parts of the state. But the great state of Ada, let's take that deal. If our valley became a state from Mountain Home to Ontario, we'd be bigger than Wyoming and Vermont. We'd support Boise State University at the level that we need to in CWI, and we build an economy we could be proud of. Now, don't you all start tweeting that the mayor wants to secede. Stop that. I'm only kidding. And what's more, Mike Boyle might still be elected to that legislature. And there are some signs of hope. Last week, I heard that the Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, has begun a discussion on the elements of granting local option taxing authority to cities in Idaho. And my former opponent, State Senator Chuck Winder, has pushed out ideas about local option that have real promise. Go get him, Chuck, come on. All we've ever asked for is the ability to determine our own fate. But let's be honest, we are on our own. We have to do all we can to build the economy we need ourselves. We have to take action, and let me talk about 3 actions that we can and must take. Let me talk about 3 of those this morning. First of all, we have to eliminate any disincentives to the kind of development that we want to see in the city of Boise. One disincentive, a huge one, are the impact fees collected by the Ada County Highway District. Now, as was mentioned, we've had our best collaboration with the Highway District on our 30th Street project, the best collaboration we have ever had. And now with the completion of the Whitewater Park Boulevard, those joint investments that we've made are going to bring economic activity in an area that really needs it. But in the spirit of that collaboration, I have asked for a number of years that they abandon their one-size-fits-all impact fee approach and recognize the actual impact that a development has on the overall system. Let me give you just one example based on a real situation. In Boise, a building valued at about $350,000, there was a deal to purchase and renovate that building. The deal was almost complete. They were going to purchase it, renovate it, make it into a restaurant, and employ around 80 people. They came to just the end of the deal and inquired of ACHD quote us the amount of impact fees. The quote came back at $125,000. It killed the deal, especially since no work was going to go on the site or anywhere near the building. I have heard dozens of those kinds of stories over the last several years. Sometimes the development continued on, sometimes it was lost, but in every situation, those involved felt awfully beat up at the end of it. But the good news is the Highway District has proposed to reform the system and recognize the value of sustainable development in the existing city of Boise. I want to encourage you all to help us encourage them to complete that work now for the benefit of our businesses and our quality of life. I do not want to stand up here. Thank you very much. Give it to them. Come on, folks. I do not want to stand up here a year from now and see the same situation. Secondly, what we need to do is build a Boise that stays competitive. Consider this. If you're an athlete and you're being recruited by Boise State to play football, what is it that you're looking for? You want to know that the university is committed to the program. You want to see a first-rate stadium. You want to see top-notch practice facilities. You want to know that your talent is going to be appreciated and nurtured, and that you can build a future at Boise State University. In the same way in economic development, we are recruiting minds. We're recruiting talent. And that talent, not just from some other place, not entrepreneurs and businesses from somewhere else, but those that are here already. That talent that's here needs to know that the investments and hard work that they're going to pursue ought to happen here instead of somewhere else. They need to know that we care, that we're committed. They need to have the services and amenities that keep and retain top-notch talent and the companies and families that come with that talent. Unfortunately, in the city, we're falling a bit behind. Let me tell you what I mean. First, we need to renovate and build new facilities for our police and fire department because public safety is always the most critical service that the city of Boise provides. Second, we need to construct and green up parks throughout the city, some that have waited decades to have a park built, especially in the underserved part of West Boise. Third, we need to build a fourth neighborhood library at Bound Crossing. And we also finally need to continue our hugely successful foothills preservation efforts by purchasing and setting aside foothills acreage now while we still can. Those are the types of investments that build prosperity for the future of Boise. That's why today I am proposing that we take those and other projects out to the public, to our citizens, with the goal of having a package of critical capital improvements, and then take that package to our voters in a bond issue. It's a very aggressive goal, and it's a very steep hill to climb. We need a 2/3 yes vote in order to pass it. Our citizens will help us decide what ought to be in that final package. The decision will be made by our city council. But I am convinced that we can take a $40 to $50 million package to the voters at a cost to an average household in Boise of no more than $19, less than it would take to take your family out to a movie. And we know that those investments pay huge dividends. We've already seen it in our community centers, in our neighborhood libraries, in our parks like the Whitewater Park and the Marianne Williams Park. Those are the kind of amenities that say to the world, this is who we are, this is what we value. They make us competitive, and we need to stay that way. Thank you very much. The third thing we need to do, those of us in business, in government, and in education need to work together in unprecedented ways. A few years ago, at the depth of the recession, I stood up on this same place and I implored you to have faith. Have faith in yourselves, faith in our collective wisdom, faith in your city government. And that faith has been well placed. We've seen increased economic activity in the city, and we've emerged from the downturn in pretty good shape. But the long-term viability of the city is at risk. Some of our best entrepreneurs over the last few years and just in the last few months have come to me with their concerns that we may not creating the context for success for the long-term success of the city of Boise. All of us, the chamber, BVIP, the school district, Boise State, CCDC, the city, all the public and private entities in this city have to work together to make sure that we build a Boise with high-paying jobs and high-knowledge industries for the future. We have to create an ecosystem of innovation. That's what it'll take to grow those kinds of jobs. The entrepreneurs I've talked to, three of whom are Jason Crawford, Faisal Shah, and Karen Meyer, have pledged real resources in cash to help build that ecosystem. And I'm asking all of you to ante in as well. Here's the kind of success, here's just an example of the kind of success we can have. A few years ago, Boise State and the city partnered together on our greenhouse incubator. We've had some amazing success with that already. Last year, I talked about a company called Affinity Amp who had graduated from the greenhouse. Well, this year, just a month ago, they were purchased by a Silicon Valley company, and the pledge is to grow even more jobs here in the city of Boise. if you take that kind of success and multiply it by 5 and 10 times that, which is what the entrepreneurs and I have discussed doing, think of the success that we could have. You know, one of the powers of being the mayor is the power to convene. And that's what I am going to do. I'm going to convene you and convene you and convene you. We're going to get together and pull good ideas with actions of what we can do. We're going to pick a few of those and we're going to do them. Every time that we've collaborated, whether it be the city with the school district in our community centers, whether it be the chamber and BVIP, whether it's the city and Boise State University with the greenhouse or our geothermal extension, every time our economy and our city came out the big winners. We simply have to build the kind of Boise that will make us and our children proud. In the spirit of the sesquicentennial, let me cite an historical example. In 1883, the Oregon Short Line Railroad completed its southern line in southern Idaho, but they missed the city of Boise by more than a dozen miles. The citizens and businesses in the city at that time simply would not stand for the most important technology of that era to literally pass them by. Led by this chamber, they began an effort to work hard, and it resulted in bringing our own line right through the city of Boise, and they built the depot at the same time. Then, on April 16th, 1925, thousands of people rushed to the depot to welcome the first transcontinental steam locomotive to the city of Boise. What is the transcontinental steam locomotive of the future? Knowledge and talent. We simply cannot sit by and allow our future to happen to us. We have to work together, all of us, to pull that future to us, because in the end, we're talking about our children and their children, and they deserve our very best. I want to close with one more story. As was mentioned, our 7-year-old is in first grade, and her teacher last November wanted to teach the students about our democratic system. And during the elections, she chose 2 mascots and picked platforms for both of those mascots. She asked the students to pick a mascot and pick a platform. Well, Josie, our daughter, came home and told this to my wife, and she said that she was upset because she wanted to run for office. Did I tell you how proud I am of my daughter? But my wife asked her, Josie, if you were running, what would be your platform? And Josie said 2 things. First of all, longer recesses, as any good first grader would say. But the second thing she said was, Mom, no more subtraction. Coach Patton, now there's a big dream. She wants to eliminate an entire mathematical function. But that phrase, no more subtraction, captures the essence of what I'm asking of all of you today. We in the city of Boise are on our own, but we are on our own together. The pioneers that began this city understood that. The people and businesses that brought the rail line to Boise understood that. And we have to live that. If we're going to build the Boise of the future, we have to make investments that will make our remote city's economy hit high gear. We have to dream dreams like the impossibility of bringing the Davis Cup to Boise. We have to make those dreams happen. And if we, you and me, if we aren't involved in adding to the success of those efforts, if we aren't making those investments, if we're not dreaming big dreams, if we're not building the city, then we are subtracting from it and from our children's future. And to that, like my daughter, I say, Let's stick to addition. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank my long-suffering wife for another great year, and for all of you for helping us make Boise the most livable city in the country. Thank you very much.